My name is Caroline Edelstam. I'm the Secretary General of Engineers Without Borders in Sweden. And this week we have our Sustainable Engineering Week 2025, which we have filled with different lectures, seminars, and workshops and interesting activities. And today we have the great honor of having Linda Törner here with us, who is the founder of WOW, Women on Wednesdays, who through their shared efforts managed to organize lunch meetups, networking events, individual coaching and mentorship programs in order to empower foreign-born women in coming to Sweden and helping them to integrate in society. We have had a very good collaboration together with WOW. And today we will talk a little bit more about how we can bridge the gap for female engineers integrating into the Swedish society. Many participants in WOW's programs are engineers and STEM professionals, and they are really looking into how to enter the Swedish workforce and private sector in order to find jobs. So I welcome you, Linda. I leave the floor to you.
Thank you so much, Caroline, and thank you, Karin, for organizing this. I'm very happy to be here with you today, and thank you for joining us. So I'm gonna start a little bit by talking about the relationship between WOW and EWB. So I also am an engineer from the beginning. I studied at Chalmers, and this was the only picture I could find when I wore my hat, which was only once for the graduation. And even though WOW has absolutely nothing to do with chemical engineering, I still feel very much that the sort of engineering approach into solving problems, which is what I think combines all the passion for engineers is to actually solve problems, is very much in the DNA of WOW as well. Because WOW, obviously, as you will hear now, is about helping migrant women who come to Sweden from other countries to enter the labor market and to integrate into society. And it actually has come to show that the lack of actual goal orientation is maybe one of the reasons why we are not doing as well as we could in Sweden. So no matter what you do in life or where life takes you, which might be sometimes an unexpected path, it's never bad to have some maths in your backpack and some problem solving approaches. I think that helps wherever you decide to go in life. So well done for choosing the STEM the STEM subjects and engineering. And to sort of step out a little bit, I would like you to think about how it is when you come to a new country. Maybe many of you have actually moved countries, and when you come to Scandinavia, which is where I've built WOW, it's actually very difficult to find each other. So the people who actually come from other countries and to find the people who actually already live here. And it goes both ways. We don't have so many natural meeting places, which means that it is that we live side by side, but we don't really know each other. And this is actually a big problem, because how do you learn the culture? How do you learn the language? How do you learn what are the hidden rules? What are the norms? And how do you get a job when you don't know a single person who has a job and when you don't have your network? So this is actually a problem that we have in all the cities where we are, but it's also a problem in many Swedish and Scandinavian and Northern European countries. We don't know each other. And if we think about it, the people that we don't know are usually the people that we don't like. Like, if we get to know each other, we can always find things that we like about each other. But when we don't know each other, that's when we sort of, tend to build these polarized and dislikes for one another. So it is very important as a society that we find these meeting points. And in WOW, that's exactly what we do. We bring people together who otherwise never would have met. So here are two people in one of our, we are now 2,000 people in WOW, and here is Anna and Awa, who otherwise never would have met. Awa's from Gambia, and Anna's Swedish. And they met at the Well Lunch, and they've been in our One Goal program together. I was now working, and yeah, it makes all the difference. So WOW is built on just not one person helping everyone, but one person helping one person, because we can all really do something. We can't all change the world, but for one person, we actually can. And if you look at the statistics, since I very much like numbers, it's surprising how little we talk about the fact that migrant women who come to Sweden are actually like the gap between the people who come from other countries and the people who already live here in terms of how many people are part of the workforce is. So anyway, so this graph really, it's actually, we should talk about this every day, but we don't. And I don't know why we are not super unhappy about this and why we don't walk the streets saying this is unacceptable. Because if you look at this graph, if you see the graph that is horizontal on top, the black one is men born in Sweden, and the gray one is women who are born in Sweden. So 84% of all women born in Sweden, when they're in their working years between 20 and 64, are actually working, and it's 85% of the men. So we're very close, women and men in Sweden. But when you look at the blue line, that's migrant men who've come to Sweden from other countries, and you can look at after how many years do they join the labor market. So if you look, it's okay, after 5 years, 60% are working, and after 10 years, it's almost 70% of the men who are working. But that is still to be compared with 85% of the men who are born here. And when it comes to women, the number is much lower. So after 10 years, it's only 54% of the women who are actually working, who've come to Sweden from other countries. And after 5 years, it's 40%. And this is really weird because there's no, there's no physical law saying that if you come from another country that you can't work. It's not like people have been sitting on a chair for their previous lives and done nothing. They are perfectly capable to work, and it shouldn't take more than 3 years, and we should be at 84%. But certainly 5 and 10. I mean, come on, we're still 30% off. This is something that is a huge problem in Sweden on an individual level, but also on the societal level, because obviously Sweden is built on people working and paying taxes. And if you don't, obviously, how are we going to maintain our high standards of living in terms of universities and healthcare and schools? So this is actually both a problem for the individual, but also for the society. And the problem that we have in Sweden is this. We actually have our own little word in Swedish, which is like government assistance programs, which means that we talk about people being unemployed and we talk about people being in the workforce. But we also have some people they're not unemployed, but it doesn't mean that they're actually working. So if you look at women who are born in Sweden, you can see that it's like 5% who are unemployed. And then there's maybe 12% who are in these kind of assistance programs. And then just above 80%, 84 are then working. And then if you look at the women born outside of Sweden, you have an unemployment rate, which is like 18 or something. And then you have this 54% who are actually working. But then there's a huge chunk who are not working, but they're also not unemployed. So they are in some kind of government assistance programs, which are supposed to help them join the workforce. The only problem is that they don't. So we are very good in Sweden at people outside of the unemployment numbers, but still not helping them enter the labor market. And this is actually a huge problem. So I meet women who've been in the government assistance programs for 9 years, and they know that they're not going anywhere. And that is not good, for a human being to feel that they are in some kind of a job that is not real. And the problem is that there are so many obstacles for women and actually who come to Sweden from other countries. It's you'd like to think that there's like this one big hurdle and then you're over it, but the fact is that there are so many little things that makes it difficult. That people actually, as we see in statistics, they actually never uh, the labor market. I had one woman in Edelstam, one of our cities. She came to Sweden. She had been to school very little, only a few years in her home country, and then she joined the adult school for learning Swedish, and she had 4 children. And then she decided that, you know what, it's time I really need to start working. She came to WOW, and we helped her with the program. And then when it was time for her, we found a company that would like to hire her. And then we went to the unemployment office, and then we said, "But why do you want to start working? Isn't it better that you continue studying?" And this is then after having been not working for 8 years in Sweden and not having worked in her home country either. So it's like you have to explain these things, which is very, which makes it difficult. And of course, she needed help then with us to explain that no, but it's actually better for her and for the country that she starts working. But it's the whole idea in Sweden is not really so focused on trying to get these women to start working. So I think we need to shift our minds a little bit and to say that we need to know where we're going. And I think we can always go back to great thinkers. And I think one thing that we have been doing in Sweden is that we have been trying to solve our problems with the same thinking that actually created the problems. And it's very true that it doesn't have to be this way. There are jobs out there, and I know now we've had WOW is actually celebrating 12 years this week, and we know that the most important factor in getting a job is the fact that you want a job. And I meet women all the time who want a job, and if that's your target, then certainly there are jobs out there. But we do need to work together, and we need to have a system that actually has that one goal, which is why our program is called One Goal, because it has only one goal, and that is to go from unemployment to employment. So the way we work with this in WOW is that we have 2 different activities. We have one which we call Meetup, where we meet in groups, and we try to be 50% migrant women, 50% established Swedish women. And then we have our One Goal program. And one of these programs wouldn't work without the other, because it's in Meetup that we actually meet the women, that we get to know them. And then in One Goal, we can then match them up with an established Swedish person and take them through the steps. And I think something that's a bit unique for Sweden is that it's also difficult for highly skilled and highly educated women to join the labor market. It's not so easy, even if you come with an engineering degree, to join the labor market. So One Goal is actually necessary both for women who have very little training and little education, but also for women who are highly trained. In Meetup, we do a lot of different activities. Our WOW lunches, that's our main thing that we do. So every month we have lunches in our 5 cities. And we have one goal in each city. But we also have a lot of activities. We swim together, we learn how to bike, we have meetings for parents, for young mothers, we have meetings for the children, for the teenagers. We do a lot of stuff together. And these are our WOW lunches. We met yesterday and Wednesday. We were over 330 women, and our discussion theme, because it was WOW's birthday, we turned 12. We spoke about different milestones throughout life and how they vary in different countries. So we always try to pick different topics that we can learn from each other. Last time we spoke about economics and how we have to, as women, take charge and also be a part of the decisions as to where the money in the family is being used, and how we save, and how we all need to take a bigger part. And then the One Goal program is a process where we have one person helping one person, because it's very difficult to help a lot of people get a job. But if you help only one, you can do it in less than 30 hours. So when we work with companies, when they do this on their during their work hours. They give 20 hours and we give 10 hours as well. And then they follow our manual, which is digitally available online. And then you follow the 7 steps. These 30 hours, 75% of the people who join actually land a job. So we're very, very happy about this program, and it's nice to see how more and more companies actually want to do this as a part of their CSR work. And as of today, we actually have a bit more, but it's 149 jobs via One Goal, and it's amazing to see how women take on all kinds of different jobs, and sometimes women actually join markets which would be unheard of in their home country, and some jobs are even forbidden in some countries. Like we have bus drivers, for example, which is not allowed in some countries. And of course, all these women who start working become role models for all the other women and for their children. And then, as I said, we have a growing amount of companies who actually join the One Goal program via their different time to give programs. So right now we're working with Barilla, Danske Bank, Siemens Financial Services, and Elos. And then people always ask, okay, what kind of jobs are these women getting? And we are equally proud of every woman who starts a job and who enters the market. But it's always fun to see how some women end up getting these unexpected jobs, like bus drivers and CNC operators. And we have Estra, who's a car salesperson. And we have data analysts, we have kitchen assistants, we have interpreters, we have them all. Because the One Goal program, actually, it starts with, who is this person? What can this person do? What are the skills? What are the strengths? And what kind of experience does she have? And then we find a job that works for her. And we did a bit of because we have both the One Goal program and the Meetup program, we stay in touch with all of our women. So when we turned 10, we had helped 100 people, and we could do the research and called these women, and 92 of them were still working. So it's not that. So the point is always that when you get the first job, that always leads to another job, because not all the women that started in one job remains with that job. Some women do, but a lot of women have, as the years have passed, they've had 1, 2, 3, and even 4 jobs, but they've stayed in the market. And as I already mentioned, we have an increased commitment by companies. So they are the ones who are financing our who are financing both our costs of the lunches, but also helping our small team. We have also a commitment from the municipality in Halmstad, where we are the biggest. And it's amazing to see how so many people are coming together to make this happen. And the truth is, we could be in every city, but for now we are in 5 cities. So we are in Halmstad and Karlstad, Stockholm, Helsingborg, and Borås. And the number of women in WOW, we are now 2,096. And we started 12 years ago, we were 22 women, and we grew very slowly in the beginning. And then all of a sudden, it's just like everything in life, it grows. It doesn't grow linearly, but we have had an incredible growth the last few years. One Goal, we are still working to systemize this. We are now at 25 jobs this year. We're hoping, we closed the timing in end of Feb, so I hope we'll reach 26. But here we're also working very hard, and we are hoping that we will soon be able to double this with our current improvements, and also with getting more and more companies to do this as a part of their CSR. And the impact is quite big. We have a lot of women who meet each other who otherwise never would have met. We create a lot of voluntary hours, 15,000, more than that actually. And if you were to do the maths for the 140 candidates that are working, and if we assume that we help them join the labor market 1 year earlier than they would have without our help, it's 30 million a year. And if we say, no, we've helped them 3 years faster, it's 90 million, and 5 years, 150 million. And since, if you remember the graph, like it's 10 years until half of them are working. So it's quite likely to assume that, yes, we are helping them both 1, 2, and 3, and maybe 5 years faster to join the labor market. So the beauty is that we can all be a part of this solution. You can go to a WOW lunch and you can become a one goal agent, and you can sponsor the WOW lunches. And that's, I think, why WOW has become successful, because it's easy in a way, and we have a way of finding people to become a part of this. And instead of just watching the world being a bit bananas around us, we can actually, in our little bubble, go in and make a difference, which is a good thing for us as individuals, both helping and being helped, but also for society. We usually say that it's difficult to know when somebody lands a job, whether it's the agent or the candidate who is actually the happiest. Yeah, so that's the story of WOW, and the 5-year plan is to bring WOW, first of all, to more cities in Sweden, but then also to go to the rest of Scandinavia and Northern Europe, because we see how this could be, the concept works. And I think it's one way to make a difference in one of our big challenges that we are facing today. So thank you very much for listening, and I am open for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Linda. We have a few questions actually, and we have a question from Daniela. Did you work as a chemical engineer in Sweden before building WOW?
Yes, I worked. I worked actually. My first job was in Brussels, so I worked for a South African pulp and paper company, SAPI. So first I worked in Brussels, and then I worked in Hewlett-Packard in Stuttgart. But then I left the high-tech industries, and I had 2 children, and then I moved back to Sweden, and then I started WOW. Yeah.
So the second part of the question was how long it took you to find a job as a chemical engineer.
Yeah, see, that was pretty hard. Because I graduated in Gothenburg, and then I met my husband my last year, and he was a year older, and he studied physics. And then I grew up in the Netherlands, and I wanted him to see something outside of Sweden. So I told him, like, you go get a job and I'll join you anywhere, preferably not Germany. But of course, being an engineer, he ended up getting a job in Germany. So I moved with him, and I hadn't even graduated. So I took my last exam at the consulate in Stuttgart, and then I thought it would be super easy to get a job, but it wasn't, because in Germany you do internships as a part of your studies. But I hadn't done an internship, and I couldn't get an internship since I had already graduated. So I applied for, I think, I don't know, like 80 jobs, and I got like 1 interview, which I did really poorly at, and I didn't get the job. And then I finally found one job that seemed really good. Like, it was, I got an interview for a management trainee program that was European. And then I applied for that job, thinking that it was in Stuttgart. And then I got the call for the interview, and they're like, yeah, it's in Brussels. I was like, how weird. So I ended up going to Brussels for the interview. And then they said, yeah, but because they had a mill close to where I lived, but they wanted me in Brussels at the headquarters. So I ended up going to Brussels for getting my first job in Germany was actually in Belgium. So no, it wasn't so easy. But then when I had that job, I could apply just 1 year later. It was only 10 months. And then I got a job. So as long as you get the first job, it's quite easy to get the second one. And then I got a job as a program manager for Hewlett-Packard. Yeah.
Thank you. Are you planning to have an office in Gothenburg in the near future? This is also from Daniela.
Well, it's actually very interesting. We've been looking for, finance. Money is always an issue when you do something like this. My God, so difficult. And then now we finally got money for a core team where we're trying to build the expansion and to take care of our 5 cities. And when we got the last piece of finance for the core team, it came with one. He said, "Yes, you can have the money, but then you have to come to Gothenburg." So Gothenburg is actually our next city. So we're going to come to Gothenburg. Yes, within. So we're starting that now, actually, and we are going to open up probably within a year. Yes.
So when you want to enter a program, how do you actually go about practically, Linda?
So basically, our slogan is it starts with a lunch. So you come to the WOW lunch in one of the cities where we are. And then, because in order to join the One Goal program, you have to have done at least 3 lunches, and you have to have done our 4 training sessions. So we have 2. So we have 2 entry points every year. So it's in January and in August. So now we're preparing for August. We just started our January batch with 22 women in our cities in total. And yeah, so now the best thing to do, if we are in one of the cities where you are, you join you join WOW by coming to the lunch, and then you do the training, and then you can if we have enough agents, we match as many as we can.
And where do you find the actual information about the lunches?
So basically, the best is still to send an email to info@WOW Foundation, so we can share that email, and then you say, I'd like to become a part of WOW, and then you have to register, because otherwise we can't send the invitations if we don't have your GDPR.
So it's very interesting to learn more about the organization. When I'm listening, I'm wondering, could you tell us a little bit about the obstacles that migrant women face, and also about how it must be very difficult for you to actually building WOW? It's quite a large network and organization. So maybe we can find some common grounds in this to see.
Thank you, Caroline. It's for a migrant woman, there's a lot of obstacles, but also to start something is a lot of obstacles. And I think one of the key issues, actually, as I've sort of touched upon, is the fact that in Sweden, like, who really owns this problem? Like, nobody really knows. Whose problem is it that all these women aren't working? And people can say it's nobody's problem, really. And the fact is that we've built integration only with projects. So there's been a lot of money given out from the EU, from everywhere, to a lot of initiatives. And then these projects have started, and they've also stopped because they've been time limited. And what I feel is that the government then forgot to hire somebody to go out there and to check which of these projects actually work, so that we can build on that. Because the problem with the project is that it always has to be new. So our main challenge has been money, because people want to give you money only for something new. But then when WOW already existed, nobody wanted to fund something that already is running. So that's taken me like 12 years, actually, to create money for this core team as a baseline for actually running the organization. So I think that's something to think about, like how to help, organizations that find a good concept to grow, which is actually quite difficult, because either you can have money and do something that somebody else wants you to do, or you have no money and you do what you want to do. And in order to build something, you can't keep changing the product. You can't keep changing who you're helping. And so you have to be a bit strict in terms of staying on target there. And I think that has been a problem, because it has been difficult for us to find the money. Now, with everything that's happening with the actual, like, people need, the EU are now demanding also a reporting on corporate social responsibility. So I can feel that things are happening now, and that companies, especially big companies, are actually interested in finding ways where they can contribute, both in terms of money, but also very much so in terms of giving of their time and getting involved in making the society a little bit better and helping with current challenges. So I think that's definitely a problem, like trying to find a sustainable path for an organization that is still very small. And how do you go from small to big? How do you get that recognition, and how do you, that's not so easy. And I think one of the key learnings is really how long it takes, and how long it takes to build your own sort of the concept. I think we found it quite early on, but then to actually build trust around it and to gain recognition is quite difficult. Yes.
But the Swedish government should be very appreciative of this initiative. I mean, it solves a lot of their problems as well.
I think so, and I don't think they don't like us. I think it's just that they don't know how to really work with us, and that's so. Now we are working with one municipality, Halmstad kommun, where we had a 3-year. We're now looking to expand our 3-year commitment to another 3 years, and that's what we need to do in all of our cities. But it is not so easy for municipalities and for the state to sort of welcome new things, and also obviously there's always a shortage of money, like everywhere, so it's not so easy to prove that we are doing something that works for everyone, but I think we're getting there because of the fact that we are really result oriented, and it's easy to sort of do the maths on what we do, because we count every job, and we are having an increased numbers. So I hope so. I hope we will be friends with many more municipalities and the state in the future. Yes.
Thank you. It's very interesting to learn more. Is there any specific lesson you would like to point out that you have learned throughout your work with WOW and working with foreign-born women and integration in general?
Yeah, I think really, like, I sometimes, when I sit at these, when we have the kickoffs for the One Goals, I always wish that we had a little camera from, the Swedish national television, seeing like that people could see the women that I see, every week, how great they are, and that these are our problems that we have in society. And I really think the lessons learned is that we can do this. Like, this is not a problem that we can't solve. It's just that we need to have our goals straight. We need to know exactly where we're going, and we need to get a lot of people involved. And we've shown after 12 years that people want to get involved. People want to make a difference, and we just have to be there with a silver platter to tell them this is how you do it. It's going to take 30 hours of your time. And if you don't have that, you can just go to the lunch. That takes 2 hours every month, and you don't even have to go every month. So I think lessons learned is that we can solve this. Integration really does start with you and me, and it's not an issue that we can't solve. And I think another lesson learned is really, when finding that this is relatively easy, like how we have such great expectations of very difficult things in society. We expect to be able to cure cancer. We have great expectations in curing diabetes. We vaccinate like 90% of all the children in the world, which is extremely difficult because you have like a chain of keeping these cool in very remote areas. And we can take pictures of black holes, and we are planning to go to Mars. So I think it's amazing how we are so good in society at solving very difficult problems with very bright people, and how not the same necessarily, but other very bright people are not able to just make sure that people who can and want to work start working, and that children who are, intelligent are failing at school. So I think this is a mindset that we really need to think about. Why are we accepting a failure like this when it's not really necessary? It's a lot easier to help a brilliant woman start working than it is to take pictures of black holes and to cure cancer. That's quite clear. So I think we really need to make sure, take ownership of this in one of the many roles that we have, whether it be as an employer, as an employee, as a private person. There's a lot we can do and should do. Yes. And another lesson, I mean, there's so many lessons learned, is how long it takes to build something, and how one thing always leads to the other, but it always takes a bit longer than expected. And yeah.
Thank you so much. So you really, you have a great ability to bring out the best of people. Volunteers who come and share of their time and experiences, and also inspiring women in Sweden to actually come to your lunches. It's quite amazing and impressive to see.
Well, thank you. No, I just want to say that it's not a one-woman show. I mean, really, WOW exists only because of every person who keeps coming back, and we're all doing this together. And that is something that amazes me, that throughout these 12 years, there's been so many amazing women who just show up and they're like, here I am, ready to help. And because we've grown from nothing, like there's been so many holes to fill, that there's been all these women who've come in and say, obviously Linda's not doing this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And that's how it's all been, and it is still today. So it really is because of there are so many wonderful, brilliant people out there.
It's incredible. But I came also to think of, because you said that as it's important to know what you want, and then just sort of stick to a plan. I can imagine if I would come to a new country and I don't know exactly what works and how it works, I could see myself wondering a bit on what should I do. I mean, it's not that easy to find a plan, and if you're lonely, you have no one to talk about. Do you have any tips or anything you could give in this process?
Yeah, I mean, I think because that's the thing, because I moved around a little bit as a child, and whenever you move like a luxury mover, you have such like a network awaiting for you. They tell you which schools to go to, they tell you where to live, like you have all these people waiting for you. And when you come as a migrant, it's so the opposite. Like nobody's waiting for you, and you only meet with the authorities. And as when working for the authorities, like that's a tough job. You're not allowed to give advice. You're not allowed to tell them that one school is better than the other. You're not allowed to say, don't take that job or don't do that sort of, that vocational training is not going to get you a job. Like you're not allowed to give those kind of real advice that people need. So I think whenever you move to a new country, like you have to get your network sorted out. And the problem is you have to figure out where is that network. In Latin countries, you go to the church because that's a meeting point. But that's super hard. And you need one local friend who can tell you, who can tell you the rules, because otherwise you will be lost. And you might, because it's enough just going to Germany, like the CVs look different. The expectations are different, even from Sweden. So if you go, obviously, if you end up in Iran or Afghanistan or Syria, it's going to be huge differences. And yes, you need a local friend. And that's why I think there are, we don't have WOW there, but if there are hopefully some organizations that are trying to do something, and you need to find them. And because that's the only way, I think.
Thank you so much for this, and also thank you for being that one person, or making sure that there are persons to actually help with this, Linda. It was very interesting listening to you today, and I would like to thank you on behalf of Engineers Without Borders. Also, I know we have a lot of person in this situation, and let's make a match.
Yes, indeed.
We'll move them over to you.
Yeah, yes. We always need to be like as many initiatives as we can have. Like we all need to work together, and we all, a little piece, like it's all going to take them forward. So it's great. I'm so happy for our collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you so much.